Okay. So, are we ready to roll, Mr. Sound Effects Man? Ooh, I've got some volume today. Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming here today. I don't know how many of you were here for the last teaching and the one before it that I gave. I'm kind of doing this in 3 parts just because there was a lot of material. And this is part 3, probably the last one, we'll see. And I wanted to say I'm going to try to leave some time for Q&A. We had a wonderful, extraordinary Mother's Day here last weekend. I don't know how many of you were able to attend some of it or all of it with the consecration of this building. It was a regular Lama Rama, on Saturday. I think I counted 13 people with some kind of an ordination or another. That's pretty remarkable for, just a non-monastic urban setting, Dharma center. And we're all very fortunate that those kind of things can happen. I don't know if you can feel the energy in this place, but it feels good here to me. And that's the object of the exercise, is to create the conditions, the environment where we can all have a direct experience of our authentic nature. And this Dharma Talk, part 3, is about the final stage of Vajrayana practice. So anytime we do a practice like Chenrezi or Green Tara or Medicine Buddha or Mahakala or the Karmapakshi Puja, whatever we're doing here, and it goes through all these stages, what I've been trying to do is just talk about each of those stages so that any of you who are interested in doing those practices can feel more connected to them, because they do come, some of them from well over 1,000 years ago in northern India, a very different culture than we have in the United States. So some of the things that are going on do seem a little unfamiliar. Sometimes they can even feel weird. And I've been just trying to go through stage by stage to help give you a feel of how we can work with it as modern urban Americans, as opposed to maybe Tibetan monastics, because as far as I know, none of us here are that. One of the main ideas that I had about this series of talks was that these visualization practices, these Vajrayana practices, where we're visualizing ourselves differently than we see ourselves when we say, look in the mirror in the bathroom at home. And because the mind is so attached to what our senses bring us, what our eyes see, seeing is believing, right? The proof's in the pudding. I have poison ivy, it itches, so that's bad. That's all part of it. It's like whatever story we're telling ourselves today about who we are. And what the Dharma is saying is, well, yeah, that's happening, but actually beneath all of that, there's like a fundamental goodness and bliss that's there all the time, We're just out of touch with it, right? So these practices are like a symphony. And the beginning, when you just come as you are and you start with recognizing that in all of its glory, whether it's good or bad or what it is, and you go for refuge. I loved that Khenpo Ujin last weekend, or it was Khenpo Sanjay, was explaining that we keep saying that we take refuge. And he said the Tibetan really is that we go for refuge. There's a sense of not taking, but a sense of opening a door and going through to a new space, right? And so my idea was that these practices are like symphonies, and this recognition of who we are, and then taking refuge is like the overture for the symphony. Because frankly, the refuge prayer, when you contemplate it, actually is a complete practice in itself. That's for another talk. And then we go through and we do some things like offerings. Offerings, why? Buddhists don't need what we've got, right? I mean, isn't that logical? Everybody's thinking of offerings. Well, we're simple people. We don't have a lot of great qualities yet, working on it. And we don't have a lot of great skills yet. We're working on it. And one of the easiest things, one of the most natural things to do when we feel a little love in our heart is to be generous, right? And sometimes if we can just enter an act of generosity, it opens us up. It's not that the Buddha needs what we give him. We need to give it because it opens us up. So that's another door to walk through. This connection of deep affection and love that comes with generosity. It's a very powerful practice, generosity. And I encourage you to think about it from time to time, however you can. And then we start, there are a couple supplications and prayers depending on what the practice is, and then we start visualizing. And we visualize, in the case of Chenrezig, like Chenrezig, and we're making offerings, and then we're actually being blessed by Chenrezig, and Chenrezig dissolves into us. We become Chenrezig. Then we do some more stuff, and everybody becomes Chenrezig. This is interesting, You might think that this is just, using your imagination to go to fantasy land and all of that kind of thing, trying to escape, but it's kind of the opposite. It's kind of the opposite in the sense that we aren't who we think we are. We're actually a Buddha to be. And this is a chance of walking through a number of doorways mentally through these practices to come to a place where we just rest with that reality. And the resting with that reality at the end of the practice is what we call dissolution. Why? Well, I'll get to that. But before I go any further, I have one funny story in here, so stay awake. And it might wake you up even if you fall asleep. Who knows? Let's start with the refuge prayer. And what I'd like to do is chant it together in Tibetan for the first time, and then say it in English together 2 more times. Sanjay Chudong Soki Chognam Na Changchu Hardu Dakni Kyab Suji Nagi Jin Sogi Pe Sunam Ki Drola Penshir Sanjay Rupar Sho. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the assembly most excellent, I take refuge until I reach enlightenment. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I achieve enlightenment for the sake of all beings. This time, instead of say, I take refuge, say, I go for refuge. Okay. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the assembly most excellent, I go for refuge until I reach enlightenment. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I achieve enlightenment for the sake of all beings. So, generally in these Vajrayana practices, we talk about two stages of practice. The first stage is called creation. And it's basically starting where we are and saying, okay, this is what things look like. This is what the yard looks like. I'm going to create a beautiful garden, whatever. So creation involves some work on our part. We call it practice. And it's just a matter of things that we can do. And if we do them truly in a state of meditation and contemplation as opposed to just rote repetition, it will take us places. And then the second part is called completion. And that's what we're going to talk about some today. That whole first two talks was about creation. Now, Garchen Rinpoche says, there are some quotes in this one, because this subject's a little above my pay grade, so. But I'm going to give you what I got anyway. Garchen Rinpoche says, the view of Vajrayana is extremely difficult to realize because it seems obscure. Some feel safer calling themselves followers of the Hinayana path and are not interested in the Vajrayana path. This is a legitimate aspiration. However, the view of Vajrayana is actually not so obscure and difficult to understand. Vajrayana explains how things really are. For instance, imagine a big glacier. Someone who does not understand Vajrayana will think, this is a mountain of ice. Someone who understands will think, this appears to be a mountain of ice. However, the nature of ice is water. It's not always an ice mountain. Once it turns into water, and if you only understand this principle, you understand the view of Vajrayana. Vajrayana says that although the six realms appear, the appearance is temporary. In reality, all sentient beings possess Buddha nature, the potential to attain enlightenment. In the mind, various thoughts arise temporarily. They are not who we really are. They come and they go and constantly change. Now you are angry, the next moment you love. All these thoughts are momentary, but there is ground of being. There is conscious awareness that is always there. It never comes and goes. It's always there unchangingly. It doesn't die and it isn't born. So think about that. Your awareness is always present. Your awareness was here the moment of your birth, and you experienced that. And your awareness is here now. Your awareness was here when you got your first pimple. Your awareness was right here, right now, as other things happened. One of my good friends, may he rest in peace, Rabbi David Cooper, wrote a book back in the 90s that was so excellent. It was a book on Jewish spirituality, but the title was God is a Verb. And that's what this is about. it's like we are a process, we're energy. Even though we think of ourselves as the object of our senses, I'm me, I see myself in the mirror, you're you, I see you, you know. I passed by something smelly on the way here, and that was something smelly on the way here. All that, all objects. And this whole part of my understanding reality, that it's a process, is not alive unless I wake it up. And that's what this process of meditation is finding ways to wake ourselves up in such a way that we experience reality directly. And the other part of the process, the relative part, comes from the creation side. This is really important. So it's not just that you go into some state of only being kind of in a translated trance of something else, you know, just in the midst of all that's going on. That's kind of like taking yourself out of it, not putting yourself into it. So we're not talking about that. That's why in the creation part, it's so important to go through those steps, because it's setting your mind up to fill that limitless openness with things that are genuinely helpful towards everybody being able to experience this reality directly. So we contemplate during that creation part being like Chenrezig. Chenrezig itself translated means loving eyes. I don't know how many of you know that. Or loving gaze. Even more correctly, loving gaze. So it's a process of looking at the world with love. Well, we put that there. And that becomes the light when we come to directly experience the openness. Okay? So it's important not to just drop the one. There are some people who say, don't worry about that stuff, just do this. They're missing something very important. It turns out that even when we're enlightened, we know this from the sutras, we know this from our teachers, you still live in the relative world. The object of the exercise is to have enlightened mind in a relative world, okay? It's not just to escape somewhere so that you can live with nothing but your bliss emptiness. It's more than that. It's a little like being a seed. I don't know, this is gardening time. I've planted some seeds. It's remarkable how long it takes for seeds to grow. It's also remarkable that this shiny, tiny little zinnia seed sprouts a thing we call a root, and then a thing we call a stem, and some things called leaves, and finally a flower. It's all in this little seed. Obviously, that seed is not what we think it is. It's not this little shiny pebble. There's life energy in there, and it turns out it's much bigger than whatever the circumference of that seed is. We're like that too. So the practice is all about creating the conditions for this loveliness to manifest. That's it, okay? When you don't know, for instance, that the glacier is just water, which is also just steam, which is also just clouds, which is also the humidity in this air, and you don't know it's all those things and has all these ways of connecting to life and important connections to life that keep us all alive, and a whole bunch of other plants and animals alive as well. Well, if you just think that this is this and that is that, you miss the truth of the reality that we're in, and also can't enjoy it as much. So as we go through these things, it's a matter of getting ready for the moment when we just flower. Dzongtsar Rinpoche says, many people have the idea that the object of refuge that dissolves into us in these practices, somehow we're like a big bag, and along comes this object like Chenrezig or the Guru or green tar or something, and then they dissolve into light and they drop into us. And they said, he says, along comes this object, this deity we're visualizing, something like an apple being put inside the bag. It's like, okay, I look in my heart, I see Buddha there. He's saying, this is not a good way to think. If you are like a bag and the refuge object is like an apple, it's not really a true dissolution. This is where we get to the practice part. The reason being, you still see the apple and bag as separate. Many people do practice in this way. They think to themselves, I'm an ordinary, worthless, useless, ugly, stupid, sentient being. That's a quote. And now the Guru and the Buddhas come and sit somewhere inside of this. He says, it's not like that. To better understand the concept of dissolution, take this example. We have a crystal pot, like a crystal teapot, okay? And we break it. The space inside and the space outside become inseparable. You can't really tell which is which. You cannot say this or that make up the space of the pot. It is impossible to distinguish between the two. So it's through this creation practice that we kind of see the pot, recognize the pot, appreciate the qualities of it, notice the imperfections of it, whatever, and step by step, that pot is dissolved. In other words, the pot being, I looked at myself in the mirror, I saw I needed a shave, I shaved my face, things changed, I'm doing things, I'm being Eric, right? And I think that's me. Completely losing touch with anything but my own preferences about, the way I want to feel and all that kind of thing. And there's nothing wrong with that. But this practice is about letting go of all those preferences that are guided by all these senses and resting in what's always present, that luminous awareness that never leaves us, whether we're infants or young or very old or even on our deathbed, especially there. And that's part of the importance of this practice, is it's preparing us for the inevitable, which is we all got to go sometime. All of us, even Buddha, he lived 80 years. That was that for this body, right? And if you're identified with your senses, this is something I used to teach guys on death row. If you're identified with your senses, like the feeling of your skin is who you are, or what you see, or what you smell, or what you hear informs you about who you are and what your life is. What happens when you're laying there and all of a sudden you start to die? What happens? Well, when you die, your senses shut down. It's one of the first things, right? There's going to be life energy. The heart probably stops last. But by the time that happens, you already can't feel anything in your skin. You can't see anything in your eyes. Can't smell, can't taste. Awareness is used to identifying with all this illusion brought to us by our senses. And we freak out. That's what people freak out when they die. That's what they mean. They're passing into the unknown. Everybody knows it, right? Well, with this practice, we start thinning down that attachment to the senses, and it may be like, I don't know if you guys have ever had an illness where one of your senses shuts down. I have. I looked up into an air vent on an airplane once and had some nasty virus blow right into my eyes. And it was like a herpes virus, it turned out, that was eating my corneas. So I went blind for a little while, and it was painful too, right? It was really painful. Well, I was able to use that as an object of meditation, and that's one of the things that we're doing here. We're getting skills. We're getting tools that we can use in order to get in touch with that thing that's always present and not identify so much with the things that come and go. Our senses are pretty fickle. I woke up this morning feeling pretty good. I gotta honestly say yesterday I didn't. It's changeable. However, that awareness, the part of me that is aware of how I feel, always there, never changes. So what we're talking about is appreciating and using all this stuff driven by our senses skillfully. And part of meditation is learning that. The other part is say, but that's not me. That's just what I'm doing, being that verb. My life is a verb. It's not the object of my attention. It's moving and changing and transforming, right? Mostly I'm out of touch with that. So going through these practices is about understanding how things are, that this is the way our senses are. This is where our thoughts are. I don't know about you, but I think different thoughts now than I thought maybe 20 years ago. I understand things differently. Where did those thoughts go? They're gone. And new ones have come. And I appreciate them, and I can use them even as objects of meditation. So all of your senses, all of your thoughts, everything can be used in this way. But we have to train ourselves to do it, because that isn't the way we're hardwired. We're not naturally born to do it. We just have the capability, and it takes practice. Just like I used to play golf, and when I played 3 times a week, I was pretty good, because I was practicing. And then family and all kinds of Dharma, all kinds of things came, a couple hip replacement surgeries. Anyway, I don't play golf anymore. If I picked up a club, I might have the imagination that I'm as good today as I was whenever I left off, That's not true. It would be pretty bad because I'm not practicing. So the important of practice is actually learning to use all the things of this life skillfully. So as it unfolds, it can unfold beautifully, and not just for ourselves, but for others as well. So Zongsar continues. I interrupted him there. I'm sorry, Rinpoche. He said, likewise, during the dissolution, you and the object of refuge, your guru, the Buddha, whoever the object of refuge is, become inseparable. And understanding in this way is so important. So if you remain in that state as much as you can, in the Vajrayana, this is considered to be essential practice. So what do we do at the end of Chenrezig practice, right? Well, we do this practice and it says, okay, let everything go. That's the dissolution. They don't give you much instruction. I'm going to try to give you a little more detail here. And okay, let it go. And when you do, your mind just comes to rest for a moment. And they say, when the first thought arises, change it to I am Chenrezig. That's what he's talking about here. During the dissolution, you and the object of refuge become inseparable. Understanding in this way is so important. So you remain in that state as much as you can. In the Vajrayana, this is considered to be essential practice. Therefore, if you have time, you should once again do the front visualization and again dissolve it, watching that dissolution over and over again. So what does he mean by that? Well, when we first start to practice, our minds are still pretty wild. Not too settled down. We're still finishing our practice and thinking about who's going to do the laundry and whether the dishes are done yet, and whatever the thought is that comes to mind. Just enjoy it like any thought. Your consciousness, that the sixth sense, saw that thought, appreciate it, but then change it, because you now know you have the power to change it. That's what the whole creation part of the practice is. Change it to I am Chenrezig. Then you dedicate the merit of the practice and you go into your day, okay? But you're carrying that essential insight into your own Buddha nature with you, which will change everything about the day. That I can guarantee you. So it's a real gift, actually. It's a responsibility to yourself and a real gift to practice every day. So what does this do? I don't know if I like his analogy here, so I'm going to let it go. He says, remember, there you were thinking of yourself as your ordinary self. Maybe you're having a bad day and you think you're pretty pathetic, or you didn't know something that you thought you should have known. You think you're ignorant. And all of a sudden, you're imagining Chenrezig or your guru or some object of refuge. This wholesome, great, beautiful, perfect Buddha. And now you and the object of refuge have become inseparable. Watching that state will definitely bring the inner wisdom. So this is the thing, two important things. You've got life in you that you can't recognize any more than a seed can recognize it's a zinnia, or any more that a caterpillar can recognize it's a butterfly. You're that. You are. But being a human being, you have this incredibly precious gift, which is you can know your own mind. Caterpillars don't do that. Seeds don't do that. So you can work with it. It's a remarkable gift to be a human. This is a precious thing to be alive in this way. You could have been alive as this bird that keeps flying in my living room window. I've got this bird. This is the funny story. It was born, was a little baby bird, like this big. And we have this Japanese maple tree in front of this big picture window in the front of our house. And it decided it liked that tree. That was its territory. There's no doubt a male bird. And it would fly around and it would see its reflection in the window and it would smack, I mean going as fast as he could into that window and then dropped down to the ledge all dazed and confused, right? And it kept doing this again and again and again. Why? Well, this bird was flying through the air, sees his reflection in the window, and decides it has to attack it because it's invading his territory. This is probably the best analogy for fundamental ignorance that I have ever encountered directly. Now, this bird has grown. This bird's now about this big. It is clearly a robin. It is clearly a male robin, so I was right about that. And we have put those anti-reflective stickers up on the window so that maybe the bird wouldn't fly into the window and hurt himself, because, that's what a bodhisattva does, right? But when you're dealing with profound ignorance like that, this bird doesn't have human karma where it can learn this. It's got bird karma where it's instinctive and reactive. That's what it's going to do, right? So now it's this big, and he flies a lot faster. Oh, he hit the window about 4 times before he fell to the ground this morning while I was sitting here looking at my talk, figuring out what I was going to say. I said, oh, that's a Dharma talk right there. And yeah, so this bird sees his own reflection and thinks that it's competition for his territory and he has to drive it out. We all do this in some ways when we're unconscious. You could probably just think about that for a little while and laugh about it, but also you can see yourself doing it. And that's what Dharma practice is working with, is saying, this all arises from thought. He sees something. Bird feels challenge, feels anxiety, however a bird feels that, in the pit of its gut, wherever a bird feels consciousness, I don't know. Karmapa used to talk to birds. Khenpo Karthar used to talk to birds. I don't know why they knew birds and could talk to them. I can't. So I don't know where he gets it, but I know the process is he sees, he gets a feeling, he misinterprets the reality, and he reacts. And he can't help himself. Can't help himself. That's karma. That's having bird karma. We have human karma. We see things. We feel things. We feel strong reactions to things. We react. It may be out of ignorance or it might be out of wisdom, depending on how we trained our minds. We could literally be beating our head against the wall, literally. Or we can try to see things as they are and recognize that, there's information there coming from my senses. It's limited. I can only hear, for instance, between 20 and 20,000 hertz. For me, less. I have a hearing aid. You can only see the visible spectrum of light, even though we know there's ultraviolet and beyond, and infrared and beyond. They exist. They're here. We don't see them. Part of reality, right? So science helps uncover these things. Well, same thing is true of consciousness. There's a lot to discover here, and it's not all as we interpret it. There's an important distinction there. I'm not saying it's not as we see it. I'm saying it's not as we interpret it, because what happens? You see something. You see this threatening reflection in a window or a mirror, and you're about to attack it because for some reason you felt threatened, or maybe you felt self-hatred if it's a mirror. We all have a little of that too, and we just get angry at ourselves. Why did you do? Well, we got a feeling in our body. We recognize that feeling somehow as being angry or anxious, and we want to do something about it. This is all driven by a reality that's not reality. We've seen something, but we didn't see it clearly. looking in a mirror, maybe we see something that we hate. And we become kind of reactive to that. That's like being a victim of life. It's like life has made me this way. Well, I got to tell you, it was in the last talk, there are no good psychological states, zero good psychological states that come from being a victim. We're all accountable for this life that we have. That's the reality. And we got to learn to work with it, or we don't. That's totally up to us. And what I mean by working with it is establishing this baseline of recognizing I don't see reality directly yet. But I aspire to. Every moment of every day isn't filled with bliss emptiness yet, but I aspire to. Every bit of space and emptiness open in my life isn't filled with kindness and compassion, but I'm working on it. So if I look in the mirror and there's self-hatred there, I don't have to respond in anger. I can say, that was really unskillful, the way you were behaving, Eric, really. And you can get better. You can develop some skill here, and you can take responsibility for that. And guess what? What comes from doing that? Any time in your life when you've seen yourself clearly and you've taken the responsibility to work with it, you can get pretty enthusiastic and engaged in life, right? Because you're really working on something that's life-giving. You're really turning that seed into a beautiful flower rather than just burning the seed and letting it turn into something else, maybe part of the fertilizer. And joy can come from this kind of self-recognition, right? So it's simple that way. And the meditation practice that we do actually goes to the next deeper level, because that's all dealing with just how we see and how we respond and how we react and all that. Underneath that, what's there the whole time? It's what we said before. This awareness that's been with you ever since you were born, maybe even before. All right, so how do we do this? This is the nuts and bolts part. Okay. I'm going to kind of go through the steps twice. I'm going to introduce them because this is really actually valuable information if you're doing meditation practice. And I don't think it gets taught often enough. So first, settle the visualization. You're sitting there, you've been meditating on Chenrezig. Focus clearly on your meditation deity or object of refuge, whatever that object of refuge is for this practice. And then, at the end, when you're coming to the end of chanting the mantra, usually is where this happens in the practice. Allow the visualization to fade or shrink from the edges inward until it becomes a single point or beam of light. And then merge it and let that light dissolve directly into your body or heart. It's important that you visualize this as light and not as an apple going into a bag. It's like light is shot through this room. That's why we can see each other, right? That's luminosity. And what we're talking about is taking this vast space of our awareness and filling it full of the light, inseparable. You can't separate the light from the air here, right? Like that. Filling ourselves with this illumination inseparably, all right? And then just rest. Release the entire focus entirely. All the thoughts about dissolving anything, just rest. And you relax into the open, empty, and naturally luminous nature of the mind without holding on to any concepts at all. So even if this is a really good experience for you and then you're thinking, man, I am so groovy. I am having such a good time. I'm going to kiss God on the lips. This is great, right? No, that's just the concept. Just let it all go. Part of you might have noticed if you do some of these practices, they're a little bit, they can be exhausting. I mean, there's a lot going on. And part of this is, instruction I've gotten is, treat this dissolution like you've been working really hard all day, something real physical and demanding, and you're just exhausted. And you come home, you don't even worry about taking a shower, you're just beat, and you sink into a couch, and you just let go for a minute. That's the way this dissolution is. Another more agrarian example is, I think it was Karmapa once said, the 16th Karmapa had come to the United States, and he saw how farmers tie up their grain into sheaves, right, before they go out and bale them. And the sheaves get tied up, and there's a little cinch around kind of a waist. And he said, the end of practice, just imagine you're that sheaf of grain that's been all worked. You've worked hard, gathered it together, and then your mind just comes and cuts the rope, and all the sheaves just drop in their place. They just slide down like that and rest on the field. That's what we're doing here. So in terms of the feel of your practice, this is really just letting go. So the first step again, focus and stabilize. You bring the visualized deity, guru, or sacred image, whatever you're using, into your mind with clarity as light, and you hold it there, allowing your mind to stabilize. It's like shamatha practice when you first do this. So whatever thoughts are still coming up, you just let them go and you return to just resting in this light. So the light itself becomes the object of your practice. Okay? Do not force the image. Let it be vivid and luminous. They say make it like a rainbow. It's like it exists, but if you got right up to the rainbow, you could put your hand right through it, like it's just not there substantially. That's the way this light, this image is within you. 2, visualize the entire external world as melting into light. Okay, this is cool. So in the beginning, we do offerings, right? And there's usually this prayer at the beginning, this mantra, Om Swabhava Shuddha Sarva Dharma, Swabhava Shuddho Hum. You'll see that. You'll run across it. You'll probably think, what is this? That's called the interdependence mantra, meaning everything's connected. So everything dissolves into the light of oneness. It's not that you disappear, but you become like a rainbow to me. You're just part of the light in the room. It's like the interference pattern of light appears as you and as me and so forth. So you visualize the entire world as melting into light, and that's what we offer in the first part of the practice, okay? So here we are again. Now we're visualizing the entire universe as light. And we absorb this light into the light that's in us, this rainbow light that's in us. So they become one. It's like breaking that crystal teapot where you can't tell the inside from the outside anymore, right? The instruction is feel the physical universe dissolve into pure energy. Consciously choose to let the outer edges of the visualization melt or dissolve, and they dissolve the deity or object of your meditation from the top and the bottom into your heart center, melting into a brilliant drop of light. And you draw this remaining drop down from the crown of your head, finally into your heart center. And you dissolve that drop of light from the bottom upward, part by part. And you merge the final microscopic tip of light into limitless openness. You can see what's going on here. Then you release the regulator. At the moment of total merging, let the visualization completely disappear. Let go of the meditation technique entirely. Release the witness, the regulator in your brain, and do not try to control, alter, or construct anything. It's really important. Don't try to fix anything. Don't try to do anything. No memory. Memory dissolves along with everything else. All your plans also. And rest in pure awareness. Simply rest in the space of your mind. Allow thoughts and perceptions to arise and pass naturally without clinging to them. If you notice you've become distracted by thoughts, simply dedicate the merit of your practice and then begin again and do the visualization and repeat the dissolution process. You can do that again and again. You know, when we're practicing together here, of course, that's impractical because we all have a different rhythm and different style. But when you're at home in your daily practice, you can work with this. And it's a good thing to work with for all the reasons that I've stated. Not to be terribly indelicate again, but we're all going to die. This is going to help at that moment. It's said that if you can do this, dissolve all these sense perceptions that we think make up the totality of consciousness, if we can dissolve it into bare awareness at the moment of death, it's said we can achieve enlightenment in the first stage of the bardo, in that first doorway from this life to whatever's next. Okay? So it's important. There's one more part. How to rest in the nature of mind. Once the visualization vanishes, do not manipulate your thoughts. Rest in the remaining awareness using these 4 pillars. Non-meditation. It's interesting. After all this meditation, first thing, non-meditation. Don't try to focus on any specific object. Just let be. Non-distraction. Don't drift away into the past or future thoughts. Really important. Naturalness. Leave your mind exactly as it is, completely unaltered. This is interesting. For those of us on the path who want to grasp at Buddhahood instead of just allowing our life to be a verb and develop it, allowing our life to blossom, we often try to grab a hold of it, think of how it could have been better and fix it, and so the next time it'll be better, right? Don't do that. That's not helpful. That's just self-criticism, and it's not, we want to maintain this spacious feeling. Anytime you get self-critical or you want to fix something, notice that. What you'll feel inside is just a contraction. Every time, 100%. And when you feel that contraction, rather than pursuing it, do the visualization again and just open up. That's what that advice was. So re-evoke the visualization. Then clarity. Maintain a vivid, bright, and awake quality of knowing. So that's the last piece of advice. At the end of that, dissolution, that's when we dedicate the merit of our practice. And then, believe me, if you do this, you'll feel it, because you'll feel connected to everybody and everything in a wise and warm way. And you'll realize there's a lot of merit there, and you're going to wish it for every being in the universe, because who would want anything but that? It's wonderful, right? Also, we have busy lives. We're doing stuff all the time, encountering people all the time. So we've got a dedication of merit here that we use, traditional one. But I'm going to read you the one from the end of a Chenrezig practice I like before we do that one as a dedication, to give you some idea that it doesn't have to be this formal prayer. It can be right from your heart, all right? And if it can be from your heart, especially in your personal practice at home, that's a very good thing. So here's how this one goes. Due to this merit, may we soon attain the enlightened state of loving eyes, Chenrezig, that we may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their sufferings. May the precious Bodhi mind not yet born arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. Due to the positive potentials accumulated by myself and others in the past, present, and future, may anyone who merely sees, hears, remembers, touches, or talks to me be freed in that very instant from all sufferings and abide in happiness forever. So it can be like that. I want to open up the microphones for any questions or comments that you might have for a couple of minutes. And they can be questions about anything. It can be questions about, what was going on here last weekend or anything else, or questions about this idea of how to do dissolution practice. I could see Jim moving around, He was being polite, waiting to see if anybody else was going to go first.
I didn't want to steal the glory from anyone else. Yes, I always enjoyed your Dharma talks, for years, back at the old center. And the meditation, I'm kind of, my practice isn't the best. I mean, since my mom passed away in 2015, I'm come here. I try to make it here every Sunday, but it's sort of like the gym. I come here to,
It is like
meditate.
the gym.
Yeah, I come here to meditate, because I never exercise at home, I have to go somewhere. But a lot of my when I try to meditate, there's kind of like a part of me, like I'll start, I'll have conversation, I'll be thinking of things and talking, and it's all like this avatar. It's kind of like this person I try to create and show the world, some kind of salesman or something. It's kind of like the Johnny Carson show, that song plays, and it's like, well, this is wrong. And I turn that off, I turn that off, and it's replaced with sort of a depression. It gets to be like this sort of just this dismal thing, and there's no conversation there.
Yeah.
It's kind of, I look at it as progress because I'm not talking anymore.
Right.
I finally shut up, but it's sort of, but then it's not good either, and so I had to start reflecting on my breathing, and sort of get in touch with my body, and that seems like nature seems to help. But I in this talk, I mean, my attention span's not always the best. I'm sure I've missed some things, my fault, but it seems like at the time of death, obviously your body's shutting down. So nature, you're part of, nature. I don't, control my breathing or, my heart beating and things.
Right.
It's like it seems to be billions of years of evolution have done that for me. But it seems like, so that it's kind of going into the universe. Because the universe is it's really not that old. The scientists just say it's 13.5 billion years old.
Yeah.
And the Earth's like about 4 billion years. So it's like really, I don't know. It seems like, I'm not sure what my question is, but as far as meditating, just so I'm ready to die, I've grown up like my parents, they weren't very religious, but it was like they were respectable. So we went to church, and it was good for business, but I kind of grew up with this idea, you have like some kind of a, motivation for religion is, to go to a better place or whatever that is. And here it seems like we're working on the now.
Yep.
What we are now is not some fantasy of what will be, but what's actually going on right now. And I'm sure I miss a lot in my description of what my meditation process is sort of like. So I'll stop talking now.
Well, I think, it's interesting when you quiet down the chatter and you said it feels like depression, and that's not good either. That's a core thing. We do a lot of chatter. We do a lot of things to entertain ourselves and distract ourselves from this unfamiliar place. You're very fortunate to even have touched it. And some people, so here's the thing. When you touch that, and if you call that depressed, that means that your body contracted, you got a little afraid, and you got afraid maybe that, oh my goodness, this void is all there is, and it's frightening. And once you realize that that could be reality, this frightening reality, that's depressing, that's sad, right?
Yes.
And so who wants to go there? So here's the thing. Meditate every day, Jim. 5 minutes. Seriously, you don't have to do a lot. Just revisit this thing every day. And I'd say go right there and realize that when you feel that depression, there's something in your body that tightened up. I guarantee it. Somewhere. It could be around your heart, your throat, just something like that. Just touch it gently with your hand. Physical contact is really good, even if we give it to ourselves. Give yourself a hug. I like doing it like this. And you can say something different rather than I'm depressed. You see, that's where that other thing is, where you just stayed this seed. I am this, right? So just touch yourself with affection and love. And so maybe it was fear of the unknown. Basically, we all have it. It takes more conversation to identify things specifically, but say it's that. You can say, gee, Mr. Fear, thank you for taking good care of me and keeping me safe for all these years. I appreciate you. However, I'm on the verge of a more profound understanding, and I don't need you to protect me anymore because I know that I'm a part of this and it's a part of me. And we just need to get familiar with each other. Like any new friend can be, you can worry, do they like me? Do they not like me? They hate me, oh my God, or whatever. It's like a lot of unknowns. And you just tell your fear. It's like, I want to get to know this space now. And once you get to know it, you're going to find out that it's not what you think it is. And once you know it's not what you think it is, you won't be afraid anymore. Because it's actually you. How can you be afraid of you? You can appreciate you. And so that's the whole point of practice, is we're moving toward that. I'd like to say that by doing these particular practices, what we're becoming is an environment. It's not like becoming a thing, it's more like being an environment. Not just one verb either, like lots goes on in an environment.
Like ecosystem.
Yeah, and that ecosystem is mechanism for filling this empty space of limitless possibility, which science tells us is the way things are, filling that with love and compassion, the things that are really helpful to ourselves and others to bring about this state of bliss. That's what it's all about, ultimately, is we have the potential for sharing that. So it'll require you practicing, though. So your gym membership should probably be more expensive so that you feel compelled to use it. How's that for advice? Okay.
Well, thanks.
Sure.
Thank you very much, Eric.
Good to see you, David.
I guess I learned a lot today. But not just you, but when I hear and read about this stuff, Buddhism, I dissolve. My understanding dissolves.
Yeah.
My clarity dissolves. It's confusing. It's abstract. So I try to grasp onto what I can. For example, meditating, sitting. That's something that I can understand. Also that wonderful little poem about all that we are arises from our thoughts.
Yeah.
All that we, help me out here, I screwed this one up. All that we are arises from our thoughts. With our thoughts, we create the world.
With our thoughts, we create the world, yeah.
So that grasping onto that really helps. And the thoughts are as it seemness, and the underlying luminosity is as it is-ness. So
Yes, well,
abstract abstract confusion back at you.
yeah, I think I follow what you're saying. And here's the thing. When you're thinking about these things, it's very good, by the way. We have to convince ourselves of the truth, otherwise it won't happen. So there is thinking involved. make no mistake, what you're talking about is contemplation when you're doing that. The way you do the dissolution at the end of contemplation is what you might want to try to work on. So whatever it is that you've done, whether it's watching your breath or contemplating the words of the Buddha or any thought in particular, at the end, take a beat. Imagine that all those words dissolve into your heart like light, okay? Just do that and rest. And with your first thought, rather than saying, I am those words or I am Chenrezig, you could say, who sees that? Who thinks that? Who's struggling with that? Ask yourself that. And as first, you'll say, well, it's me. And then you'll say, who sees me? See, obviously there's a duality there. There's a seer and a seen. And ask yourself, who sees? And what you'll find is you can't find anything. That's what the openness is. You won't find anything there. And yet it's full of everything. Everything you see and experience is illuminated by your consciousness. That's what the luminosity is. So you've got the openness, which is the space, the condition within which things appear. And then noticing the appearance is the luminosity. And you cannot find anybody who's seeing that, except that it's seen. And that's what I meant in the beginning when I said, I seem to be a verb, or God is a verb. Buckminster Fuller also said that. He wrote a book, one of my favorite books of all time, I Seem to Be a Verb. It's a great book. But it's one thing to get that conceptually, it's another thing to have a direct experience of it. And that's sort of, once you have the direct experience, that is something that will profoundly transform your way of being in the world. That's how the Dalai Lama became the Dalai Lama. That's what he saw. And we all have that potential. So I don't know if that helps or not. But try that.
Well, thank you very much. Were I to understand it, it would help a lot.
Just ask yourself, who wants to understand?
There we go.
There you go.
Very clear.
Find that one.
So I'll hold on to what I can understand, grasp it.
Yeah, no, let that go. Find out who wants to hold on. Just keep asking. Keep the inquiry going. So, anyway, I went way too long. I apologize, Don. I apologize, people who hung in there online. Apologize to you all. But let's dedicate the merit of this. We'll just read it in English. By this merit, may all attain omniscience. May it defeat the enemy, wrongdoing. From the stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death. From the ocean of samsara, may I free all beings. The courageous Manjushri, who knows everything as it is, Samantabhadra, who also knows in the same way, and all the bodhisattvas, that I may follow in their path, I completely dedicate all this virtue. Well, thank you, everybody. This is wonderful to see you.